You think you can just ignore the rules because you filed a motion? Well, you are wrong. This stops today.
The judge disagreed.
At 6:12 a.m. on May 3, 2024, metal clanged outside like someone was building a cage at the end of my street. I cracked the door and cold air hit my teeth, smelling like wet mulch and fresh asphalt. At the mouth of our Cul De Sac, two contractors worked under a blinking amber light, bolting a sign to a post. No creek access. HOA common area. Orange notices were zip-tied to every mailbox like little arrest warrants. Across the street, a porch light flicked on, then off again, like my neighbor didn't want to be caught watching. I ripped the notice off my box and felt my stomach drop. Each home on our street owed $300 for riparian buffer interference tied to my lot. My brain kept looping the same ugly thought, HOA fined my Cul De Sac over my riparian rights. Turns out I'm the judge with the court file stamp on file. This wasn't about yard work. It was about control over land that isn't theirs. It's deeded to my lot. Not shared. At 9:00 a.m., I walked into the clubhouse with my deed and my survey, holding my calm like a shield. The chair tapped her pen like a tiny gavel. The HOA president smiled tight and said, "We're protecting community property." I slid my plat across the table. The creek line is on my recorded map. She barely glanced at it. "Pay the fine and stop," she said. Behind me, neighbors stared at the carpet and avoided my eyes, like the floor was safer than the truth. I sat in my car after, hands on the wheel, listening to the AC hum. Anger tried to shove me toward doing something loud. I didn't. I promised myself proper channels only. No pranks. No shouting on lawns. Just paper, dates, and proof. If they wanted to play official, I would out-document them. I drove home, watched the barricade light blink in daylight like it wanted attention, and drew my line in the sand. That afternoon I went to the county records office, the place that smells like dusty paper and cheap toner. The clerk slid a thick folder across the counter. The file landed with 68 pages, and the top sheet shaded my lot all the way to the waterline. I paid for certified copies and watched the stamp machine thump down, leaving a clean seal. Back home, I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. 6 warning emails. 3 violation letters. 2 anonymous complaints with no names. The next morning, compliance showed up at my gate with a man holding a clipboard like it was armor. She said, "We're here to inspect the buffer." I said, "You can look from the sidewalk. You cannot enter my yard without permission." She huffed and walked off, and 10 minutes later my phone buzzed. "Police are coming," a neighbor texted. A deputy rolled in slow and asked if I was trespassing on HOA land. I handed him my stamped plat. Timeline item 1 April 5 at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. He frowned, wrote notes, and said, "You're on your own lot. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted." That was when the Cul De Sac woke up. Mrs. are filmed from her driver's seat, whispering, "They really called the cops on him." 2 kids on scooters stopped like it was a parade. The group chat popped off. "I'm not paying. Post the bylaws." I have camera footage of them putting up that sign. Someone else wrote, "If they can fine us for his creek, they can fine us for anything." Another neighbor typed, "I'm emailing management and copying the county right now." Then it got quiet in a different way, like everyone finally realized the bully only breathes when we stay alone. I sent a written request for a formal hearing that same day, with copies to the management company and the county water resources office. 2 days later, the real authority arrived. A county inspector walked the creek bank with a tape measure and a tablet. A code officer photographed the barricade posts near the drainage swale and the Cul De Sac entrance. At the hearing, the chair tried her big voice. Our attorney said we can do this. The inspector didn't argue. He pulled up the recorded plat, then pulled a stamped court order already filed in the public record, and set it on the table like a brick. He held it up so everyone could see the seal and said, "This already settled the creek boundary and access limits years ago." The HOA president's smile died when she saw the signature block, because it was mine from a case long before I lived here. I didn't announce it. I didn't flex. I just let the paper talk. The inspector kept reading. Fines must be tied to one lot, one violation, with notice and a hearing. You billed 12 households $1,200 total with no hearing and no proof. That's collective punishment. The code officer added, "This barricade creates an emergency access issue. Remove it today." You could feel the spell break in real time. Neighbors who used to fold in on themselves sat straighter, shoulders back, eyes up. Phones stayed raised, not for drama, but for receipts, steady hands documenting every sentence. The chair's pen stopped tapping. The silence stopped being scared silence and turned into listening silence. People weren't whispering now. They were calmly repeating facts to each other, like practicing a new language. Even the neighbors who used to avoid eye contact started speaking in full sentences, like the room finally had oxygen that didn't belong to the board. By Friday, the email went out. Fines rescinded. Refunds issued to anyone who paid early. Barricade removed. Policy review scheduled. Apology delivered to every mailbox. The sign disappeared into a truck bed like trash. I didn't celebrate in the street. I just walked to the back of my lot and listened to the creek, because quiet is what I wanted in the first place. The chair stopped showing up to inspect, and the HOA president stopped smiling at people like she owned their lungs. The neighborhood changed in small ways that felt huge. People stopped deleting messages and started saving them. A dad printed the bylaws and highlighted the hearing rules in yellow. Neighbors shared security clips the next time someone tried to hide behind anonymous complaints. Parents let their kids ride bikes again without yanking them back when an HOA car slowed down. The group chat went from panic to planning, and the bully lost oxygen because everyone started documenting in daylight. Folks sat straighter at meetings, not because they wanted a fight, but because they finally believed the paper would back them up. On June 14, 2024, I sat at my kitchen table with the stamped papers spread out like a quiet victory. The creek sounded normal again, just water and wind. I didn't win by being loud. I won by being accurate, and by letting the right officials do their jobs. The board tried to shame me in public, but the public watched them get corrected in writing, with a court file stamp that doesn't lie. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and share. Was the HOA wrong? Drop a comment.